The United States appears to have lately intensified its diplomatic offensive against the Islamic Republic. Only on Thursday, the U.S. House Speaker Paul Ryan, on a visit to the Persian Gulf region, said that Washington was in talks with its European allies to increase sanctions against Iran. The reason, as he put it, the country's missile program, as well as its foreign policy. Ryan said that the EU should follow America's suit in imposing tougher sanctions against Iran. This was what U.S. Vice President Mike Pence also said when he traveled to Israel earlier this week. Pence also called on Europe to join the U.S. in altering a nuclear agreement with Iran, which President Donald Trump has already declared a crusade. And finally, the U.S. Secretary of State Rex Tillerson has announced that Washington will send a team to Europe to discuss changing the Iran deal. Clearly, a large segment of the American political establishment is pressuring Europeans over Iran.
When you talk about the Americans and the Europeans, yes, there are certain disagreements over how they should preserve or alter JCPOA, meaning the Iranian nuclear deal. But there are common understanding that there are certain issues that they want to bring up and also to discuss with Tehran. The Europeans, not all of them are ready to do this. And I see that there are certain members of the European state that are talking about sort of a unilateral action to pressure Iran. But at the same time, there are others who consider that there should be another set of negotiations with Iran, just like the ones that have happened since 2013 until 2015.
Several of America's European partners that are involved in the 2015 nuclear deal with Iran have already criticized the Trump administration for pushing to kill the deal. Russia has now come out and said that Washington is trying to blackmail Europe to change the terms of the deal. But it has called on EU to preserve the status quo created by what many see as a landmark agreement which helped end decades of disputes over the Iranian nuclear energy program.
In the past, the Americans have been playing this kind of a trick and game. If you could call it a blackmail, yes, it could be said so, but usually this is sort of pressure that the Americans have been exerting all over the world. It's not confined to the issue related to the Iranian nuclear deal or the nuclear negotiations that has happened. I see it as a way that whenever the United States sees a state that are not in compliance with their own ideas, they tend to use this physical or the economic tool, usually called as the financial sanctions, to make others comply so that this certain state will be left alone, isolated from the entire international community, as well as the banking system.
At the heart of America's pressures against the nuclear deal with Iran appears to be the country's missile program. U.S. President Trump has already made it clear that the deal needs to be changed to also address Iran's missiles. This is while not only Iran but also the EU partners to the deal have said that changing it is impossible. And the officials in Tehran have made it clear that missiles are an important element of the country's defense program and can never be a subject of negotiations with other parties.
The two sides, the allies over the Atlantic, are trying to make a deal with the Iranians if possible, but I certainly know that the Iranians are not ready to negotiate, so now the Americans have turned to the Europeans.
In light of the rising pressures by the U.S. against the Iran nuclear deal, the fate of what many saw as an example of successful international diplomacy remains unclear. What is clear, though, is the fact that it is the Americans under Trump's leadership who are standing in the face of their allies, coercing them to do what they don't desire. It appears that Trump's war on the nuclear deal has become more a domestic battle between Washington and its allies at the current juncture. And this could be the first of many other battles to come if it becomes clear that America, under Trump, wants Europe to be tamed.